Kristen Alexis, and I'm gonna start off with Kristen. Who were you before the you that you are now?
That's a good question. Who was I before the me that I am now? I think I was just someone who was like really caught up in um, this sort of hustle, like this sort of hustle culture. And I was definitely someone who was striving for all of the things that they say like make us successful. So like having a certain amount of money in the bank, or like having a certain type of relationship, or like having a certain type of house, or a certain type of car. And I really was like on my way to doing that, but honestly I was really working very, very hard, and I was working Sunday to Sunday, and I was very, very tired and very burnt out. So even though, yes, my bank account looked nice and I had a beautiful apartment and a really nice car, like I wasn't really enjoying my life, to be honest. I was kind of just operating on a bit of autopilot and just going from like one thing to the next. And I was so caught up in like being busy that I was also a bit numb, you know? And so this is like the version of myself that I sort of reinvented actually when the pandemic hit, because the last year in my last business, so I have a whole new business now. But in my last business, like that last year, I really started to feel like something needs to change. And I just wasn't sure like how to press the pause button. And then the pandemic came and it gave me that like ability to pause, because everything was sort of shutting down, and the world was going on lockdown. And so it gave me this chance to sort of reset.
So how did you obviously you had assistance in kind of identifying that you needed to reset, but kind of before or even as the pandemic was coming into full swing, how did you do that? Or how would you recommend for others to really identify that, hey, you know what, even though I'm successful in one area of my life, I'm maybe not in others, or I'm maybe not feeling fulfilled, or I'm super stressed, or I'm unhappy. How do people that are kind of in their lives step far enough back to actually identify that?
Yeah, I think it's really looking at your life holistically, you know, because sometimes we get so caught up in what we think success should look like that we're not re-evaluating or even evaluating like where we are in other areas of our lives. So for me, the one thing that I noticed was like my health and my relationships were not thriving, you know? And so, like,
Mhm.
looking at different aspects of our lives as well and noticing, like, are my intimate relationships thriving? Are my friendships thriving? Am I feeling like deeply held and seen and understood in my relationships with other people? Is there a lot of turmoil? Also looking at our health, like, what is the state of my health? Like, am I lethargic all the time? Do I have a lot of energy? Do I feel sort of like agile and like very energized as the day opens up? Or am I the kind of person who like gets sleep, but it feels like I haven't slept, you know? And this is like one of the ways that we could even tell if like our nervous system is getting the rest and digest state that it needs to be in to kind of reset our energy. Because sometimes we are so accustomed to going that we don't actually take a moment to pause and say like, actually, am I relaxed in this moment? Like even when I'm doing relaxing things, like, am I relaxed in this moment? You know, and so just checking in with the body, checking in with even the physical sensations that we are experiencing, which is actually a part of somatic work, right? Because somatic work focuses so much on the emotions and the physical sensations that we might be experiencing.
That's beautiful. Well said. Thank you. What struggles or perceived obstacles, and I say perceived because I feel like everything is happening for us, right? So
Yeah.
but sometimes those opportunities are disguised as obstacles. So what obstacles or opportunities did you have to overcome to make that transition kind of from where you were to where you are now?
Yeah, I think one common obstacle that everyone can really relate with, even if we try to deny that we relate with it, is like, what will other people think? Like, if I give all of this up, if I give up all of this like success, right, and I choose a different lifestyle that may not be conventional, what will other people think? You know? And how will this affect the people around me and their perception of me? Which for me was a really big thing at the time. I was very concerned with keeping up a certain image of myself, and that image was very um, you know, quite big because I come from a very small island in the Caribbean, right? And I have been in our national newspaper, I have been on our national television. So it was like I started to become someone that was like quite well known in the space of marketing and consultancy and business growth, right? And working with corporate clients and going to corporate events and speaking at university, I would say like functions or conventions. And essentially I had to start to peel away those layers. And the biggest fear that I had was like, well, what would all of these people think if I decide to like totally scrap this business, like start over anew? If I decide that I just want to, you know, find more peace in my day to day, find a little bit more time freedom, find a little bit more spaciousness in my life. Like, what will people think? Like, will they think that I've dropped the ball? Will they think that I'm crazy? Will they think that like I've gone off the deep end? You know? And for me, I'm the kind of person that like I do everything that I do all or nothing. Right? Like I'm not this kind of in between person. So I knew like if I'm giving this up, I'm giving all of it up. I'm not going to do in between. I'm going to start afresh. I'm going to start anew, and I'm going to build something different for myself. And so that was huge for me. And then another thing was just trying to figure out like, what am I going to do now? Like what are the skills that I have that I want to essentially monetize? And how can I do that in a way that feels in alignment with the type of lifestyle I now want to create for myself. Right. So it took a little bit of deeper inner work and self exploration as well. And I'm quite lucky because going to therapy or, seeing a coach and things like this was always something that seemed for me in the norm because as a kid, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so I actually went to a psychologist to do like mental brain like exercises, like almost twice a week after school. So when it came to like doing self exploration, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just hire a coach, I'll just hire a therapist. And for me, it was like second nature. But I know for everyone, it's not. Right. And so this could also be a difficult obstacle. It's like, I want to do the self awareness work, but maybe I have some preconceived notions about what it means to work with a coach, what it means to work with a therapist that is actually blocking me from getting to the next stage and the next step.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. What if you can remember, what feelings did you have back then versus how do you feel in a given day or kind of regular basis now?
Mm. Yeah, this is a good question. So I used to have chronic jaw tension on this side, like chronic jaw tension all the time, grinding my teeth. I would have a lot of trouble like sleeping, and I would be experiencing emotions just like stress. I I also found that I was like quicker to like snap or like to go to anger, like quicker to be more irritable in my day to day.
Mm,
This is because I was just burnt out. I was very, very stressed. And I was also quicker to disassociate and like numb out and like look for distractions like after work. Like I would just want to come home and not talk to anyone and not do anything and just like kind of go off into my own world and sort of like become almost like recluse, right? Because I'd had such a hard day, for example. And I just remember feeling like a bit of like bitterness, a bit of um, you know, just this feeling of like, yes, I have all of these things, and yes, there are beautiful aspects to that. But I wasn't necessarily feeling like I was thriving. you know?
Mm.
Um, Other emotions that I feel that I experienced were just this sense of constantly chasing the next goal, right? This sense of dissatisfaction no matter what I accomplished. So, no matter how big the goal was, no matter how big the achievement, there was always this like moving needle that I needed to like get to. And so there was a lack of contentment because when you're constantly chasing something, you can't enjoy what's right in front of you. You can't, right? And so this for me was like also part of my journey that I had to go on. Yeah, and then how I feel now, very spacious and happy and joyful. My days are filled with a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of activities that bring me like life, for example. So like right now I do yoga every morning, and sometimes it's 6 a.m. in the morning, sometimes it's 9 a.m. in the morning, and it feels really good to start my day off in that way. It feels really nourishing to be able to do something for my body so early in the morning, and also my eating has really improved. I feel that like when I was working a lot and I didn't have time, like I would just eat for convenience, like I would just pick up the first thing that like was there or was available, whether it was like a burger or some like wings or like, just like eating like really, really heavy foods that sort of weighed my body down. And I was a lot heavier as well in terms of weight wise. And now I feel very like lithe and agile and like I feel very light, and I'm also recognizing that I'm choosing foods that actually make me feel healthier and
Mm.
stronger. And even just a little bit like lighter, because sometimes we can eat foods that sit very heavy on our stomachs, and it takes
Mhm.
a while to digest, and we feel that like midday lethargy, right? And so now I am eating foods that even when I eat and I have like a full plate of food, I'm not feeling lethargic. I'm feeling energized. And that's to tell you like the quality of food has changed, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I want you to share just one more thing, one more word of wisdom, um, and something that would go against conventional wisdom, let's say, or myths that are out there in how people could, let's say, become a peak performer in every area of their life.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe the biggest piece of advice that I could give anyone that has really, really, really helped me, and maybe it's two pieces of advice in one, but the first one is slow the F down. Like, slow down, right? And really, because when we are racing through our lives, we cannot stop to enjoy it. And life is really meant to be enjoyed, because the one thing that we will regret when we're on our deathbed, when we've come to that time when we're going to transition, is I wish that I spent more time laughing. I wish that I spent more time playing. I wish that I spent more time being myself. I wish that I spent more time, you know, doing the things that I love with the people that I loved. And so I think just slowing down and creating that spaciousness for yourself is huge. And then the second thing that I want to say around this is, as you transition, as you like move into a new space, as you start to bring self-awareness through your current habits or patterns that aren't currently serving you, it is in your best interest not to beat yourself up, to actually meet yourself with so much joy and love and compassion as you would a small child who was making a big change. And the reason for this is because our nervous system can only heal from a space of love and compassion. Like, transformation can only really happen when we are gentle with ourselves. We have this like idea that when we're changing or when we're transforming, that we need to like flog ourselves and beat ourselves up to get to that next level and to be really hard and critical with ourselves. But that creates like sort of a traumatic response in the nervous system, where you will get like 2 steps ahead and then you'll realize that you regress like 10 steps back, because the nervous system is feeling unsafe to make those changes. And the only way
Mm.
that it can feel safe is through love and compassion, right? That we have for ourselves. And so this is also my second piece of advice.